What's up guys, back with another training log and Q&A. I'm starting off today's video with a clip from Thursday because I have early onset dementia and I've forgotten the days of the week. Okay, real talk, I'm comparing my 675 pound squat single this week to my squat single of 650 pounds from a day I hit 705 and my 630 pound squat from 4 weeks ago. If you're wondering why I start each clip with me just coming up out of the hole, it's just the easiest way to compare side by side when editing. Basically, I'm using this to project my max. You can see the 675 pound squat was the heaviest, but it was just as fast. So doing things like this, I think, can be important for comparing progress. Once you hit the intermediate and especially advanced stage, you can't be at your peak strength at all times. You're probably going to be below your all-time strong for most of your training cycle versus your absolute peaked 1 rep max. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the concept of using the training max. This is basically the same idea. So anyways, how do you compare your strength and how you're progressing when you're not at this absolute peak state? Well, compare it to similar points in past training cycles. I've mentioned before how in new training cycles, you should only change a few things at once so you can better observe what is and isn't working. The point being, your training cycle shouldn't be that different, so you can compare strength at similar points in the training cycle, like this 675 pound squat and the 650 pound squat from years ago. It's also good to track your estimated max over the course of the training cycle. Now with squat singles like I'm doing, it's easy to see that I went from 630 pounds to 675 pounds in 4 weeks at the same speed, so obviously I'm getting stronger. But if your program is changing week to week or the RPE is changing a bit, you can directly compare using a rep max calculator. Obviously, fluctuations are expected, but you should be trending up over time. Track the performance on other exercises as well, things like your pause squats or even your accessories like triceps extensions. Try to PR those versus last blocks. You want to look for things to be trending up because obviously if we're only testing once every few months, we don't want to spend that time in the complete dark wondering if we're actually getting stronger. Speaking on that rep max thing, I think everybody should work out their own rep max calculations based on their own numbers. Rep max calculators get less and less accurate the further you are from your max, and they're also highly variable between individuals and even an individual on different lifts. Generally speaking, the longer your range of motion, the less percentage of your max you can do for reps, the worse you are. I had one client who could pull 300 kilos and he legit could not rep 270 kilos, 10% under his max. He was a 6'6" conventional puller with a ton of range of motion. Anyways, the point being, track your own data and you'll get more accurate data. You'll also probably see how it varies from lift to lift. Anyways, that's all I had to say about my training this week and my tangent related to it. Lifting was good. Now on to the questions and answer portion of the video. Comment more questions you have below. So first question, can I squat every day naturally? Absolutely. I did it. Evan Jurek has done it for years. Agata Sitko does squats 6 days per week, as well as every other lift, as I've mentioned recently, and she's arguably the best powerlifter in the world. Random side note related to this, I've seen people say enhanced lifters can train more frequently because they can recover quicker. Now in my anecdotes coaching enhanced lifters, it's literally the opposite. The extra fatigue from the strength means they need to train less often. I think you'll see that looking at top enhanced lifters too. Eric Lillybridge, for example, would squat and deadlift once every 2 weeks. So 1 week he would squat, the next week deadlift, alternating. I never got the idea where steroids means you can train more frequently came from. It must be people who've only ever dealt with theory, not practice. So the second question I got was how does squat stance width impact what muscles are hit? So if you look at muscular engagement studies, the differences are basically none between the different stance widths. The only exception is wide stances work the glute medius more. So this is a hip abductor, so assumably it's because we're in a wide stance we need more abduction. But muscular engagement is only part of the story. We also have to consider the range of motion the muscle is going through and the moment arms for said muscle or the joint is trying to work on. Link to an article talking about this more below. Contrary to popular belief, wide stances are not necessarily going to be more hip dominant, though I would say they often can be. For example, look at this narrow stance squat with a ton of hip flexion, or look at this super wide stance squat with not nearly as much hip flexion. There's going to be exceptions to the rules. So third question, what do you change with training with a physical labor job? So something I've found when you have other physical fatigue besides lifting is higher frequency but shorter sessions actually works better. My first job was in construction, doing finishing work on some new condos for my uncle's company in the summer after 11th grade, and I did this myself in my program to great success. I carried it on to when I was in university and I had several other jobs where I was unloading trucks. I had lots of fatigue each day. Basically, we have a baseline level of physical fatigue from our job. So we're going to hit the threshold earlier in a given workout where the fatigue starts to take away from quality, and eventually we hit what I call the junk volume point. It's basically where the fatigue and extra recovery demands from the work we're doing isn't worth the stimulus we're getting. Now if we split our work into shorter but more frequent sessions, we can do more work under this threshold, we can handle more quality work overall. Recall what I recently said in my high frequency video, link below, recovery is not linear, we recover more in the first days post-workout. So next question I got, how do you get that big arch with your feet not even touching the floor? I think he was talking about my Larson press, which was at the start of the video. So I set my arch before I raised my legs on Larson. I think people should do this so you can get stability. I more use Larson to take away the leg drive. But on a side note, on foot position for arches, there are two main methods I see. One is with your feet more drawn back, so this sort of pulls you into an arch from your legs. Or one with your feet more in front, so you're pushing your torso to bend with your leg drive. I think the right foot position is going to depend on your leg length and also the height of your bench. But I think most people can find a way to do either position, in which case I prefer the more feet in front one. It can be easier to transfer your leg drive directly into the bar of this method, whereas having your feet more tucked back, it's harder to transfer that force into your torso. Your feet may slip more with your feet in front, but focus on downward pressure and get some grippy shoes and you should be fine. So that's basically it for the video, guys. Please like, comment more questions you have below, and subscribe if you haven't already. And once again, thanks for watching.